Hello and welcome to the CSUSB Advising Podcast. This is Matt Markin, an academic advisor in the ASUA Academic Advising Office at Cal State San Bernardino. And I am happy to say that this is episode 100. And I'm joined by the director of the Academic Advising Office, Ed Mendoza. Ed, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back. And let me start with the congrats to you, Matt, for all the work you've done to get to 100. I know it's been work, so I appreciate it, and I think our students appreciate it. So thank you from all of us.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. And so, a topic that's a hot topic nowadays is AI. And I mean, AI has been around, and we know students use it. We know some faculty use it. Some staff may use it. I use it as an academic advisor. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool to have episode 100 be about AI and maybe use an AI platform and get your thoughts about it? And just as a disclaimer, this is not a promotion of an AI product. This is not saying that you should use this AI product. Since AI is a big topic, we just thought we'd want to celebrate episode 100, just doing something interesting, something fun, something unique, and that's testing out an AI platform. This is similar to episode 97 of the podcast titled Asking ChatGPT How AI Can Help You Succeed, which wasn't a promotion of ChatGPT, but more so a fun way to use AI and ask it questions about student success. So one AI platform I've been dabbling with is NotebookLM through Google. And I found a couple Reddit posts from CSUSB students that I thought we could use NotebookLM to analyze and use their kind of podcast mode to hear its thoughts on those Reddit posts, which have to do with study spots on campus and if it's normal to sometimes not do well in school. So, Ed, what are your general thoughts when you think of AI?
Well, you mentioned hot topic, and the only reason I know something's a hot topic is if I'm interested in it, especially with technology. Historically, I've been last to do something with technology, but AI's I know is going to be there, and if there can be benefits to our students, to us, to improve things, I need to be on board with it as well. So I've never heard of NotebookLM, and I want to hear about it. And I know there's some hesitation by some based off what AI can do or not do. We still want students to obviously get that college experience, but who are we to say it needs to be our way? So it's a different college experience now. So I think it's something for them to use.
Yeah, agreed. So I thought, if anything, I can try to explain what NotebookLM is, but maybe, if anything, we can ask ChatGPT to tell us more what they might know about NotebookLM. So let's just get everything set here, and then we'll have maybe a little conversation with it before we move on to actually using NotebookLM. All right. Hey, ChatGPT, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How about you?
Yeah, doing fine. Now, you're on the CSUSB Advising Podcast for our 100th episode. Are you okay if I asked you a few questions?
Of course. I'd be happy to answer your questions. Congratulations on your 100th episode. What would you like to know?
Well, thank you. And just to let you know,
You're welcome. And
So my boss is also here with me. So let's make sure this is some good answers and I don't get in trouble, okay?
Absolutely. I'll do my best to give you some great answers. What would you like to ask?
So I'm interested to know if you can tell me what you know about Google's NotebookLM. How would you describe that AI platform?
Google's NotebookLM is an AI-powered tool designed to help users organize and analyze their notes and research more effectively. It leverages language models to help summarize content, generate insights, and provide relevant information based on the user's notes. It's like having a smart assistant for note-taking and research tasks.
Awesome. Can you talk a little bit more in depth about the kind of functionality that NotebookLM has?
Sure. NotebookLM offers several useful features. It can automatically summarize large amounts of text, highlight key points, and generate questions to help deepen understanding. It also assists in organizing and categorizing notes, making it easier to find and reference information. Additionally, it can connect related concepts and provide contextual information, helping users to better understand their materials.
Awesome. Now, how would you say that college students can maybe adapt the functionality of NotebookLM to their study practice?
College students can use NotebookLM to streamline their study routines. They can leverage its summarization features to quickly grasp the main points of their readings. The organization tools can help them keep track of notes and resources for different subjects. Additionally, generating questions can aid in self-testing and reinforcing understanding. It's a great way to make studying more efficient and effective.
Yeah, and do you think there are any ethical concerns college students should consider whether they're using NotebookLM or any other type of AI platform?
Yes, definitely. It's important for students to be mindful of data privacy and how their information is being used. They should also ensure that they're using AI tools as a supplement, not a replacement for critical thinking and original work. Being aware of potential biases in AI generated content and verifying information is also key to ethical use.
Awesome. Well, that sums up my questions. Thanks so much, ChatGPT.
You're welcome. It was great talking with you. Good luck with your podcast episode.
Thank you. All right, so got some information from ChatGPT about NotebookLM. So now let's actually go to NotebookLM and we'll take a look and see all that it can do. So first, Ed, I'm going to show you the site, and those that listening, you could always go to the NotebookLM website. But this is where you would be able to upload, whether it's like a PDF, some sort of document. You could put links to a YouTube video, to a website, upload to Google Doc, paste text, and then it would analyze that information.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Does that include our written notes? Like I can upload what I wrote and hopefully it understands my writing?
Yeah. Well, actually, that's a good question. I am not sure. But yeah, that's something that we could look into and see. I know you can type in notes, like your own text.
And to be honest, most students probably type notes as opposed to my old school way of writing, and my writing isn't the best. So maybe it's not as important for our college students nowadays.
But it's still an interesting question because I know a lot of people still write, handwritten. So
yeah.
Maybe that is something to look into. So with this one, I've put in 2 Reddit threads. One from a CSUSB student who want to know more about study spots on campus. And then one who I think just did not perform as well, maybe in their first term, and is kind of asking the Reddit audience, is that normal? So with this, NotebookLM has generated what they call like a deep dive conversation, which is basically AI to AI as if they're humans talking to one another about what they just analyzed. So it's kind of like a mini podcast episode. It's about 11 minutes. I'm going to play it, listen to it, and then we'll discuss it afterwards.
Hey, everyone. Ready to find some awesome study spots at CSUSB?
I'm ready.
Those long breaks between classes can be a drag sometimes, especially when you're on a huge campus like CSUSB.
Absolutely.
So today we're going to deep dive into a couple of Reddit threads from good old RCSUSB.
Oh, nice.
One thread is all about good study spots and hangout spots, just places to chill between classes.
Makes sense.
But the other one is titled, Is It Normal? So we'll be getting into some real talk about the student experience at CSUSB.
Wow, that's a really interesting combo. Like we're looking at the practical and the emotional side of college all at once.
Yeah, I thought so too. So let's start with those hidden study gems.
Okay.
I was so surprised to see some of these suggestions, like places you wouldn't normally think of for studying.
Like what?
Well, someone mentioned the Anthropology Museum on the 3rd floor of the SBS building. Apparently they have super comfy lounge couches there.
That makes me wonder how many other cool spots are hidden around campus that would be great for studying.
Right, like sometimes you just want a quiet spot to focus, and museums can have that kind of vibe.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever tried studying in a museum?
Can't say that I have, but I'm kind of curious now.
Yeah.
Oh, and another one that caught my eye was the CGI 3rd floor patio, fresh air, sunshine, and peace and quiet. It's like a little escape from the craziness of campus.
That sounds amazing, especially for people who get restless being stuck inside all the time.
Totally. And there are those study nooks on the 4th and 5th floors of Jack Brown Hall. Have you ever been up there?
I haven't.
Yeah, they're like these little hidden pockets of solitude. Perfect for when you need to buckle down and get serious.
I love those little hidden spots.
Right. Okay, so we talked about some of the less obvious spots, but we can't forget about the classics,
Of course not.
like the Fowl Library, especially the top floor with those amazing views.
Yeah, the views from up there are incredible.
Plus, a lot of people on Reddit were talking about how quiet it is, which makes sense.
It is a library after all.
Exactly. But sometimes you need a little bit of buzz, you know, maybe some background noise to help you focus.
Yeah, sometimes silence can be too distracting.
Right. So a good alternative would be SMSU North. Someone mentioned the bleacher style seats near the food court as a favorite.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
You can grab some food, hang out with friends, and then settle in for a study session.
That's a good point. It shows how different people have different study needs. Some people need total quiet, while others prefer a little bit of a social atmosphere.
For sure. So it seems like CSUSB has a good mix of both, wouldn't you say?
Definitely.
And speaking of social versus solo study, one user actually asked specifically about where to find other students to connect with.
Oh, interesting.
And someone recommended the affinity centers on the 3rd floor of SMSU North.
Have you ever been to the affinity centers?
I haven't actually.
It's cool that they came up in the context of study spots. It's like for some people, socializing and studying go hand in hand.
Yeah, maybe they find it motivating to study with other people or they like to bounce ideas off each other.
Makes sense.
Okay, so are you ready to switch gears a bit?
Yeah, hit me.
Let's talk about that second Reddit thread, the one called Is It Normal?
Okay.
I have to say this one really hit home for me because who hasn't felt that way at some point in college?
I know what you mean. That feeling of being totally overwhelmed, making mistakes, and wondering if you even belong here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so brave of that person to share their experience so openly.
It is. And you know what's even more heartwarming? All the supportive responses they got from other students.
I know, right? It seems like there's a real sense of community on that subreddit.
It really shows the power of community, especially in a place like college that can sometimes feel really competitive and lonely.
So true. And some of the advice was really helpful too. Like someone suggested taking classes at a community college to catch up or improve GPA.
That's a good idea for some students.
What do you think about that?
Well, it can be a great option if you need a little extra support or if you're looking for a more affordable way to get started with college.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that everyone's path is different. There's no right or wrong way to do college.
Yeah, and it's not always easy to just go to community college.
Yeah,
One user mentioned that it can be tough if you live in a rural area and there isn't one nearby,
that's true. There are definitely a lot of factors to consider.
for sure. And that's where guidance from counselors can be so valuable.
Absolutely.
A lot of people on Reddit were saying how much it helped them to talk to a counselor, especially about things like picking the right classes and figuring out how transfer credits work.
Yeah, that stuff can be really confusing.
I know. It's like having a guide to help you navigate the whole college system.
I like that analogy.
You know, another thing that kept coming up in that thread was the struggle with time management, especially for students who are working full time while going to school.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough balancing act.
It is, and it can be so stressful.
No doubt.
One user suggested focusing on just one challenging class at a time and taking it easier with other courses.
That's a really smart strategy.
What do you think about that approach?
I think it's brilliant. It's all about recognizing your limits and setting realistic expectations. We often feel like we have to do it all, but sometimes it's better to prioritize and focus our energy where it's needed most.
It's so true.
Yeah, it's like giving yourself permission to not be perfect in every single class.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not just about managing the workload, it's also about dealing with all the emotional stuff that comes with college life.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Reading that Reddit thread, you really see how much pressure students are under these days.
It's intense.
It is. It's
Uh,
like there's this expectation that college is supposed to be this perfect, carefree time.
Right. Like everyone's supposed to be having the time of their lives.
But that's not always the reality.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And then you add in social media where everyone's showing off their highlight reel.
Yeah,
It's easy to feel like you're not doing enough or you're falling behind.
it's so true.
One user even said they felt ashamed for taking 7 years to finish their degree.
Wow, that's so sad. But it also makes you think about this whole idea that there's one right timeline for achieving your goals.
Right. Like everyone's supposed to graduate in 4 years and have their whole life planned out.
Yeah, but that's just not realistic for a lot of people.
Definitely not. And there's nothing wrong with taking a little longer or taking a different path.
Not at all. Everyone's journey is unique.
Couldn't agree more. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
And that's something that people kept saying in that thread, encouraging each other to just embrace the journey, even the tough parts.
That's so important.
And it really struck me that one user who eventually graduated with an MBA,
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
even though they had been on academic probation and even withdrawn from classes.
Talk about resilience.
I know, right? It's so inspiring.
It really shows that setbacks don't define you.
For sure.
They're just opportunities to learn and grow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting to hear more about how that person turned things around.
Yeah, like did they get a tutor or change their study habits or what?
Right. I wonder if they connected with a mentor or found a support group.
That would be really helpful for other students who are going through similar challenges.
I think so too.
Yeah,
It's so valuable to hear these real life success stories.
totally.
It reminds us that it's possible to achieve our goals even when things get tough.
For sure. It normalizes the ups and downs of college and makes it okay to ask for help.
Speaking of asking for help, let's go back to that advice about talking to counselors.
Okay.
I think sometimes we forget how much they can actually help us, not just with academics, but with personal stuff too.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that they're trained to help students with all aspects of college life.
Like they can help you pick the right classes, connect you with resources, and even give you strategies for dealing with stress and anxiety.
It's like having a personal advocate on your side.
Right. I remember someone specifically mentioned how a counselor helped them figure out the whole transfer credit process.
Ugh, that can be a nightmare.
I know.
Okay, so before we wrap up, there's one more story from that thread that I wanted to mention.
Okay, which one?
It's the one about the student who was struggling with organic chemistry.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. They were working full time and couldn't make it to most of the study sessions or office hours.
Exactly. It's a situation that a lot of students can relate to, trying to balance work and school and feeling like there just aren't enough hours in the day.
Yeah, it's tough.
So, anyway, this student was feeling super discouraged and even questioning if they could handle the major.
Wow.
But then another user gave them some really good advice.
What was it?
They said to focus on that one difficult class and take it easier with the other courses.
Oh, yeah, that's a great strategy.
Right. It's about being strategic with your time and energy.
Instead of trying to be amazing in every class, you focus on the one that's really hard and give yourself a break in the others.
Yeah. Sometimes it's okay to just aim for a passing grade.
That's such an important point. We put so much pressure on ourselves to get straight,
Mhm.
but sometimes just getting through a tough semester is a win in itself.
I agree. And it sounds like this student was putting in the effort. They just needed to adjust their approach a little.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that college isn't a race. It's about finding what works for you and setting your own pace.
Okay, so we found some amazing study spots and we got real about what it's like to be a student these days.
I feel like we just scratched the surface with those Reddit threads.
I know, right? They were packed with info.
It's fascinating how those personal stories, the struggles and the triumphs,
Yeah.
they actually reflect bigger trends in higher education.
What do you mean?
Well, we're seeing more diverse students than ever before, people from all kinds of backgrounds with different experiences and challenges.
That's true. It's not just the typical 18-year-old fresh out of high school anymore.
Exactly. These are students with jobs, families, financial pressures.
It's a lot to juggle.
And then on top of all that, they're dealing with academic pressure competition, the fear of failing.
It's like, how does anyone make it through?
And yet they do not only survive, but often thrive.
Yeah.
What really stood out to me was the resilience in those threads.
Yeah.
The way they were supporting each other and their determination to succeed.
It's like they created their own support system.
It's like they realize they're all in this together.
And that makes me think about how important it is to ask for help, whether it's from counselors, professors, or even other students.
Right. It's not about being a lone wolf anymore.
It's about being part of a community.
Exactly.
So, general thoughts.
And just to clarify here, that was AI doing that conversation based off everything it read or it had content from the Reddit.
Yeah. So when I uploaded those two website threads from Reddit, that deep conversation mode was generated within a few minutes.
Wow. If we could play this to all our students as they come into school, a lot of our students that come to college as a freshman out of high school, they may not have encountered a challenge yet. I'm not saying school was easy for them, but it wasn't so much of a struggle or challenge for them. And maybe the first challenge will be in college. And hearing how the struggles can be good for you and the triumphs and the wins. And I'm one that taking a lot of notes, so I wrote a lot of little notes through here for this conversation that you and I can have, Matt, because as you know, so if you're okay with it, Matt, some of our personal stuff. So I've known Matt for 21 years now, and I took 6-7 years to graduate college. I make fun of myself, and I took the scenic route to graduation. I wasn't so much into school, not because I didn't like education, but I didn't feel challenged at times, and I didn't take the time to study. I didn't take the time to read. I didn't take the time to do a lot of things, and I did enough to get by. But I got to graduation, and then later on, I was thankful for it. I got a master's, and I stayed working at the university. Or Matt, on the other hand, as an 18-year-old, he already had his high school diploma and his associate's degree, and by 20, he already had his bachelor's degree. And I'm gonna say, I don't know if we've ever had this conversation, but was school easy for you, Matt? Was it a challenge? Was it a struggle?
So my first semester, I did the middle college program. So my junior and senior year of high school, I was at the Moreno Valley College campus taking college courses that were counting for college, but also counting for the remaining high school requirements that I had for graduation. I was so used to a high school mentality of going about passing my classes. I mean, I did very well in my high school classes, but I almost failed my biology class at Moreno Valley College my first semester because I didn't know how to change my studying and why I needed to adapt to a different study practice until after I got an F on my first exam, and then realized what I'm doing right now is not working. And I kind of had this thought of like, should I even be in college? But I ended up changing up my studying, got a C on my next exam, and then a B on my final. And I realized, okay, I just need to adapt to every class, to my professors, how they want me to learn, ask questions if I need to. But yeah, that first semester really taught me everything I needed to know on the differences between college and high school.
But there was still a moment that you skipped here. The moment that you thought that you learned that you weren't doing it the right way. The choice was learn to do it the right way, or learn to improve on what works best for you, or go back to your high school counselor and say, yeah, this isn't for me. Can I just take high school classes?
Yeah. I mean, because quitting for me wasn't an option, because then I felt like I was going to disappoint my parents. And I was like, I don't want that to happen. And so I need to figure out what I need to do to stay in college and do better.
And that's the part. What keeps the student, the individual moving forward. And a lot of times it's an outside motivation. A lot of times it's just what in our own head. And that I don't know if it was a fear of failure for me in a lot of ways, but the fear of failure. If I give it my all and I still fail, then I really feel down upon myself. But if I just give it a little bit of effort and I fail, then I can at least blame something. It's because I didn't try. It's because I didn't give it my full effort. And when I meet with students now, what's the worst that can happen? That you fall? I'll be here to help you. Better to do it now in college than in a career where maybe you can get fired or something. Sure. So it's good to push yourself to places that you're uncomfortable with. And that's part of the college experience. And that fear of failure, the support groups, all these things are part of it. The strategies that I was listening to. I wish I heard this many years ago when I was in college, but everyone's different, and there's not one strategy that works for everyone. And it's learning new strategies, and if it works, keep going. If it doesn't work, try something new until you keep. There's always room for improvement. No one ever perfects something right away, or ever maybe.
And I think that's why it was nice that with that Reddit thread about study spots, like you had students chiming in about, well, I like to study here, or do you know about this place, or the top floor of the library, or the open air area of the CGI building. didn't really know about the anthropology outside the anthropology museum, but that gives me another possible suggestion for a student if they have questions about where to go for studying.
Because it's location. I was thinking as I was listening to this location, it's what's the best time to study, right? Is it when I'm tired? Is it when I'm not tired? Is it with others? Is it with not others? It mentioned, do I want noise? Do I not want noise? Everyone's different, and it's trying things out. And one of the things I've been doing, and I've never been a big reader, but over the last year, I've been reading more books. Surprisingly, maybe to a lot. But I've learned that I need to put headphones on because I get distracted a lot. So I put headphones on, and not even with music, because even the music distracts me because I start singing the songs and not paying attention to the book. So there's the white noise. I learned that there's green noise now, which is more nature kind of noise. There's so many different kinds of noises in all the apps that people can get. But I now need to put headphones. I like doing it outdoors in some kind of nature-ish kind of place and try to focus. And that's the only way I can kind of read it and really get into it. So
yeah,
different ways. And like I said, we're also learning as we get older, but I can imagine the pressure that the student feels. Okay, I don't have time. I need to learn now because my test is next week. I need to do this now. And there's extra support. Obviously, we resources on campus like writing center, tutoring center, supplemental instruction that we offer students. But the fellow students, the mentors, how do you do it? What's worked for you? The study groups, because all that, the more information I have, the better decision I can make. And I say that about everything.
And I think that's where like AI can kind of be a companion and maybe a study buddy of sorts for students. So not replacing the tutoring on campus, not replacing going to your professor for questions, not replacing going to your class for learning, but something extra. So for example, like you're mentioning reading, like let's say a student has to read an article. They could read the article, and let's say NotebookLM, since that's what we're using today, they could maybe upload that article and have it generate a summary. They could use that deep conversation mode and hear these two AI individuals chatting about said article, and it can help them maybe have a more deeper understanding of the article, maybe pick up on things they missed when they initially read the article, but not something that would replace them actually reading it,
Supplement is always better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in addition to, how can it in addition to be worse? So yes, reading, do the assignments the way they're supposed to be done, because there's a purpose for why professors give an assignment a certain way, because of what one can learn from it. But the supplemental to help us study, to help us be more prepared for an exam or for just that knowledge of the subject, especially for majors, right? Because if I understand this area of my major pretty well, I can address it in the future courses, in sequential courses. So it's not just the surface kind of learning, but the deep learning, and that supplement will really make a difference. But all this that we're talking about in terms of a student being willing to learn how and where and when, it all starts with that same moment that you had where you mentioned, I didn't want to fail and tell my parents that I failed, but it's your own vulnerability with yourself, the own looking at the mirror and, okay, this is what I need to do. I can't control others, but I can control what I do. And that mindset that you had to kind of push forward. And the podcast kind of said it, the student that was brave enough to put it on Reddit, the student that was, so being brave and vulnerable and open to people possibly judging, it happens. And we're human nature for a lot of it. I would say from the advisors, and I know the podcast used the word counselor a lot, but from our advisors at CSUSB, we talk about not judging. We talk about how we went through it ourselves. We talk about how majority of us are CSUSB graduates and how we're here to just give information and cheer them on and support them and give them extra resources and extra tools for them to be able to use. So if ever someone feels down, find that support group, whether it was Reddit, whether it was a mentor, whether it's someone in the class, or just come to an advisor. We may be a year or two older, maybe some of us a lot older, just a few years older, but doesn't mean we can't still relate. And even the faculty, same thing with the faculty. The ones teaching, they were college students themselves. So who better to ask how to do better than the ones that are trying to get the best out of you?
Yeah, and that's a good catch that you found with the term counselor, because I think most of when they were referencing counselor, they were really referring to like academic advisors. Yes, there might be some academic advisors that have counselor in their title, like EOP counselor, SAIL counselor, STEM counselor, but I think for the most part, it was really referencing those that are in academic advising.
Correct. No, but I think it was wonderful. And if we're talking about the NotebookLM, what by the way, what's LM stand for? Maybe I throw you off here. It just means knowing. But as you look for it, but talking about the NotebookLM, to summarize, I always told students, and maybe this is the old school mentality.
Language modeling.
Okay. Notebook language modeling. But I would always tell students, research says it, whenever students take notes, if you rewrite them or type them up within 24 hours, you retain 50% more of the information, and it just makes it easier. And then what do most students do with their notes? They put it in their notebook, or they stays on their laptop, and it doesn't get opened until when? Right before an exam, or right before I need it. But if imagine that supplement, summarize, and then listen to it every once in a while, by the time it is time for an exam, I've heard it a couple of times already. I don't have to go deep studying so much, and I don't feel, and the stress comes from not feeling prepared. Yeah. So if I feel more prepared, then the stress is not there, and it just makes it so much easier. Yeah, and it's multiple classes that I'm taking this semester too.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I didn't find during that recording, I was finding the answer to your other question about handwritten notes. And so it doesn't look like NotebookLM would be able to upload handwritten notes, but the workaround would be using a program or app that would convert the handwritten text into machine readable, editable text. And then you can upload that document into NotebookLM.
Wow. And I've learned this over the last couple of years. And maybe in 5 years, there's something even that could do all of that in once, right? So yeah, technology, as we know, keeps improving. And something like this NotebookLM as an AI platform, you could also use what you upload and create a study guide, an FAQ section for it as well. So definitely can help with the study tips. It does have a little disclaimer at the bottom of their page that says NotebookLM can be inaccurate. Please double check its responses. So I think that is just something good, whether you use NotebookLM or something else, that it may not be 100% accurate. So you always want to have another source to double check the information. Correct. And I'll say it again, just like you mentioned it a couple of times. It's not to replace. Right. It's to supplement. It's to add to. Because the more information we have, the better I think we'll be prepared.
Right. Well, and again, disclaimer: this is no promotion of NotebookLM or ChatGPT. This is just to show you that there's some AI platforms out there that you might be able to use and help out. But as we end the episode, any last comments?
I don't. I want to say congrats again, Matt, to the 100th episode. This topic is good for our students. I know within these 100 episodes, we've been trying to give information for students to use, whether major tools that they have out there. This is an important topic and dear to my heart. In the 18 years that I've been in advising, students aren't struggling academically because they're not smart. Students have struggles because life, motivation, time management, just that effort that they need to put into it, but it's not necessarily an intelligence thing. We don't have a magic pill to address all of it. We will continue to work with students, and finding that motivation is within themselves. But maybe having a conversation with someone else is helpful. Having a conversation with those that know you really well is helpful, but also having conversations that don't know you that well and that you're more open to, because you feel less judged by someone that doesn't know you as opposed to someone that already knows you. It's hard for me to talk about myself with people I know. People I don't know, it makes it, it's at least a little easier for me. So I think this will be helpful for students moving forward. AI as a whole, if used properly, just like anything, we have used properly. And the good thing about AI, I don't think we need to have a lot of tutorials, because every time we have tools or things that can benefit students, we have to show them how to use it. But with AI, you just start typing, or if you have the ChatGPT Pro where you can just talk to it, it's even better.
Yeah, just trial and error, and eventually you figure it out. I don't know if we'll have another 100 episodes, but we will still continue this podcast after episode 100. But thank you, Ed, for being on this episode.
I'll challenge you. We can do another 100 episodes, Matt. I'm not going anywhere. I won't retire till we do get to 200. How about that?
Who knows? Maybe I'll use this AI platform and just generate episodes.
Well, thanks, Matt.